like, oh, okay, getting close to the end of the week. Okay, good. Okay, so let me share the screen here. Nice to see everybody. Fairly full house. Okay, we're going to try and understand this idea by Rav Stav today on Parshat Shoftim. Quite a complex one, but hopefully we'll take some things out. Rav Stav is an amazing individual and leader. So most people have heard of him. I think he's most famous because he's the head of Tzohar, which is an amazing organization that creates this bridge between Chilonim and I would say like Sharatei Dat. So he identified that the only time, I think it started out because he saw that the only time Chiloni people would really be meeting Rabbanim was at like this really critical time of their lives as they got engaged and were set to get married. And they weren't, unfortunately, they weren't always getting excellent an excellent experience of religion. They were like sometimes meeting Rabbanim, they were just operating more like clerks, or being judgmental about the fact that they were secular and things like that. And on the one hand, there was a lost opportunity. On the other hand, it did damage. And then you see all these couples running off to go get married in Cyprus and Greece and all these things like that. So I think that's how Tzara started off, with this realizing of Sur Merah, trying to fix the bad, and Asay Tov, and leveraging the opportunity to really show the amazing face of Yiddishkeit and what it can be at the milestone of these people's lives when they get married. And I've seen an experience every wedding that I've been to, it has been like a Tzohar rabbi. Some of Sarah's cousins have used, even though they're dati, they've had like a Tzohar rabbi, and they found this like star, and then all the siblings would always get the same rabbi. They do it for no charge, and they really use the opportunity to uplift the couple and show them the best face of Yahadut possible. Tzohar, the name, is a beautiful idea because it comes from, anybody remember? Let's put it out there. Where does Tzohar come from? Susan?
From the Tevat Noach, the little, like an opening window kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a machloket. Rashi brings a machloket. What is the Tzohar in Noah's Ark? So for the artists, they would want to say that it's a window that lets in light. There's another machloket that said it was like this precious jewel that also created light. But I imagine the one that Rav Stav maybe was focusing on was, both of them are important messages, right? To have this jewel that creates light, but the other one is, which is like a Rav Amital from the Gush would have said, that this is how he built the Beit Midrash in Gush. They showed him first the plans, and he said, no, where are the windows? I can't have all my Talmidim learning Torah and not being sensitive and knowing about the outside world. So the Gush Beit Midrash is like filled with lots and lots of windows. So that when you're learning, you know that your learning is always connected to the outside world. So yes, there's like a teva, and we have to be insular in some sense, but we have to be insular and strong with the ability to still be connected, sensitive, and shining light to the outside Jewish world. So it's a beautiful name, Tsar. So that's Rav Stav as the head. He's also the Rav of the city of Shoham, which is a beautiful integrated city with Chilonim and Datiyim. And we served him a meal in our house in South Africa when he used to come. His son, he's got an amazing son, he's got amazing children. One of his more like prominent children at the moment is Rav Stav, who learns the Gush, and he's been on Miluim endlessly back and forth, and he writes some really, really beautiful pieces, reflecting on, giving like a dati reflection on the experiences. I quoted him at the beginning of the war when he said that there was this like moment where they were getting all things from, we were all sending all gifts, and they were getting gifts from overseas and in Israel, all the Miluimnikim, and then I think the commander saw some other soldiers in their unit starting to play like sheshbesh and things like that. So he gave them Musa, the commander, not a Datiga, I think, and he said to them, you can't play when this is not what you're supposed to be doing. When the people in the home front overseas, when they start sending sheshbesh, then you know you can play sheshbesh. But right now they're sending you food and they're sending you equipment, and things to keep you, to keep you on track and keep you safe. So those are the things you need to be focusing on. He said when they start sending you sheshbesh, then you know you can start playing sheshbesh and start playing games. And I think he compared it to the Parshat at that time of Yosef sending the agalot to his father to communicate like what they had learned in halacha and sending all the kuchumis in Rat Haaretz, the beautiful fruits of the land, all the opposite way around, right? So it was like Yosef sending stuff from Mitzrayim to Yaakov's and Zimrat Haaretz. But there was like this communication of through sending things, you're transmitting your values and giving those things across. So like that was, I remember, one beautiful thing that he said, and he said a lot of things. I saw him at Shavua Sefer and I like pulled him in. I was like, thank you for all you're doing and writing and this. I think I was at the Gush at the same time as him. And then another cool story is when I was just as I'd arrived in South Africa in 2012, and I was the head of the boys' high school at the Shiva College. Rav Perry said to me, we need to strengthen the relationship with Makor Chaim, the school Makor Chaim, with Rav Dov Zinga and David Rabinovich, because that's where our kids were going for Kfar. So he said, what we need to do is we need to create an exchange program. So I was like there for I think I just arrived literally like a month. And then I was in touch with Makor Chaim to bring their kids out. And I think the first group was Rav Stav's youngest son, Shirel. Okay, this is where the story becomes cool. So Shirel's that was like a great kid, but like I think like the youngest of 7, and he so we like bonded whatever and it was sweet. And then I think it was, I don't know if it was that year, probably it was a few years later when our parents left South Africa. Rav David Stav came out as the guest of honor to pay tribute to our parents, before he moved back to Israel. And I got to be the driver for a bit. So I got to spend time with him, and we had him and his wife over for a meal, and it was really special. He's an amazing, special, warm person. Then what happens is we send Yehuda to the random school in Petach Tikva, and we're like trying to find like a way to really like keep him well looked after there and nurtured, and as he finds his way. And who do I bump into at the parent-teacher evening? Shirel Stav, who we had in our house as a student. He's now a teacher at the school, and Yehuda sees him, and they hug each other. They're all like very connected and really getting on. And then in terms of like building Yehuda's plan from like mid-year last year, Shirel was like the center of his like educational like plan. So it's amazing how the world works out. So that's my connection to the Stavs. Unfortunately, Rav Stav was also a bit infamous, not because he did anything wrong, but because he was a candidate for the chief rabbinate a few years ago, and the Haredi world, was very threatened and treated him horrifically. Put out whatever they could, libel, spitting at him in the public forum, terrible things like that. So, but he's an amazing man. He's a visionary. He's all good. So if we don't understand the Torah that he says here, which is quite complex in the second part of it, then at least we know that it's worth following after him. Ladov Kabor, that you can. He's a real Talmid Chacham and amazing tzaddik that does lots of good things for Am Yisrael. Okay, so he calls us Parshat Shoftim, Minu HaMelech. So one of the focal points of the parasha is the mitzvah around a king, and I say that in inverted commas, is it a mitzvah, is it not? That's actually one of the main questions. So Mrimak Tovim, so it says in Dvarim itself, when you come to the land Hashem gives you, and you inherit it and you settle it, Som Tasim Alecha Melech. So it's double language. You shall surely appoint for yourselves a king. Asher Yivchar Hashem Elokecha Ba, that Hashem will choose for you. So which one is it? Som Tasim Alecha or Asher Yivchar Hashem Elokecha Bo? Right, that's like this inherent tension within getting a king for the Jewish people. Mikerev Achecha, will choose from amongst your brothers. Tasim Alecha Melech. So that's Mikerev Achecha Tasim Alecha Melech. From amongst your brethren, you should appoint a king. And you can't take a non-Jew to be your king. He has to be one of your brethren. Okay. אחד המצוות המיוחדות באופן כתיבתה וניסוחה בתורה היא פרשת מינוי המלך המופיע בפרשת האלה. So one of the special and unique mitzvot in terms of its phrasing and its description and its in the way it's like in the way it's communicated is this idea of appointing a king, right? As we said, there's like these who's doing it. Is it from Hashem? Is it from us? Both at the same time? Do we have a choice? Whatever it may be. Often so the manner in which it's phrased, so you said I should put a king upon myself like all the nations. So where is that? That's from the continuation over there. Oops, sorry. Okay. Motira afilu siman she'ela, so it creates this this question, understanding what the intention is of the Torah. Are we talking about a mitzvah like any other mitzvah? Put on tefillin in the morning, daven at least once a day, whatever it is, or is it a recommendation? It's like, if you want to do something, you can. I would recommend you should do it, and if you're going to do it, this is the way you should do it. So we don't know. And a third option is maybe it's just a concession. It's like it's a b'diavad, it's a reverse concession to what the nation wants. Or is it some sort of concession to the Jewish people to say, you can see all other nations of the world have these mighty kings, and you want a king as well, right? So you've got a king up in heaven, but it's not someone that you can take to the United Nations and put them out there on show, or give you more of like a direct governmental political direction on the ground. So you're just trying to be like the nations of the world. And over there, we know that the Torah generally tries to keep us far away from that. Like the whole point is to be our own nation with our own unique values, and we shouldn't start chasing after the things that they do. So that's the question that we have. Like, what's the motivation for this mitzvah? Is it something that Hashem says it's a good thing for you to have, and therefore you should have it, and it's a direct mitzvah? Is it something that Hashem is conceding to us, and just that we want to be like the nations of the world, similar to eating? We spoke about like meat is something is like a concession at this stage. What are the other ones? There's a question about korbanot, right? One of the opinions is that I think the Rambam's opinion is the reason why we have sacrifices is because it was like an acquiescence to what the nations of the world were doing at that time, and we needed to be weaned away from it. So too it could be with the king. Or is the Torah just saying it's not direct mitzvah, it's a recommendation, and you can choose to take it or not? Okay, so we left with that question. Lo bichti לא בכדי למד מכאן הרב זצ"ל בתשובה לשאלה, כי לכל הסכמה של הציבור יש יכולת לייצר גדרי מלחמה, וממילא ודאי שהוא הדין למדינת ישראל בימינו. Okay, so it's not for naught that Rav Kook said in an answer to a question, כי לכל הסכמה של הציבור, that for every agreement that the tzibur has, right, Rav Kook saw a lot of power in what the Jewish people want and what they agree to. So if there's something that they all agree to and that they all want, there's something godly within that comes from within the people. So if there's agreement amongst the people, there's an ability to set up the parameters of kingship or of government. And therefore the Rav Kook says that therefore it's completely relevant also for Medinat Yisrael in our days, that if the Jewish people come and they say we want to appoint a government, we want to appoint a system of rule, then it's like, how do you say, it's deriving power and legitimacy and authority and jurisdiction from this original mitzvah of the king, of finding the king. Because the people come and they say we want to have a king like all other nations of the world, Hashem says, okay, take a king from amongst your brethren. So too, in the time of Medinat Yisrael, the Rav Kook is saying, when we come and we say we want to establish a country, we want to establish a government and a rule, then that's getting the same sort of power, it's plugging to the same Torah power that we see with this mitzvah of the king. And beyond that, things seem in a time when there isn't a king. So this is now he's quoting. Even when you don't have a king, if you have like governmental judges, and they also are there in order to manage the general state of the people, the population. So too those rights come and return to the nation. So on the one hand, you could think, okay, we've got to have a king for our country. We're not going to have a king. It's not Norway or something. But we're going to have a president. Maybe the president will be seen as the king in that sense. And Rav Kook is saying even further that even if you've got judges and people that are deciding the law, they also considered as a direct stream from this source in the Torah around the melech. He says, and especially, it seems that every judge appointed in Israel has the rule of a king. With regards to many rules of law of the kingship, and especially that which comes towards managing the population. And even when it comes to individual matters. In any case, the logic holds. When it comes to the judgment of government, it comes towards managing the population. Certainly, the appointed by agreement judges and general presidents and prime ministers, in the place of a king they stand. So we're not saying a king is something divine. We're not saying this person wakes up in the morning and has suddenly got godly powers. But what Rav Kook is saying over here, that the Torah gives space and legitimacy to regular human dominion, authority, jurisdiction, and it's something that we can value, and that then we can say that it comes from it has the same strength as the king, which is described in the Torah. So it's quite powerful. Now, if you said that the state is a sin and we shouldn't be in the state of Israel, we should wait for Mashiach to come in the Gula, you couldn't say this. So this is clearly, Rav Kook seeing the birth of redemption through the Jewish state, giving legitimacy to the judges and the kings. He didn't know about Rav Kook. Thank God, didn't see judicial reform protests in Yerushalayim. But Rav Stav is certainly alluding to that. Rav Kook also writes, so Rav Kook says he finds support in what the Rambam says. So the heads of the community in Bavel, they were called like the Reish Galuta, right? The head of the communities in Bavel, which is essentially the definition of the diaspora. So they come, the heads of the community are seen as the kings. And they've got the power to enforce Israel in every way, the Jewish people in every way. And how much more so that presidents that are let's say appointed democratically, right? They're appointed through agreement. At the time when the Jewish people is in its nation and under its own jurisdiction, whatever level it is, it's an important line, right? We don't have to be living perfectly according to the Torah and everything like that, but whatever level it is, if they're there in order to guard the nation, not just to say, we're not saying over here talking about a thing to say, no, we appoint leaders in order to teach Torah. No, we appoint leaders in order to direct the population. It doesn't have to be about teaching Torah. Like the grandchildren of Hillel, they were not called a shevet, but rather mechokek, like law creators, I guess. They've got those who are just teachers, it seems, They don't stand in the place of a king. They've got like, they need to have the strength of the beitin. Only when we talk about people who've agreed and have come through agreement to stand up and lead the nation, Gama Artzit, also I guess like the Kamalchai Beit Hashmonai, like the kings of the Hasmonean kings, V'gam Nesiahem and the presidents. Pshita de lo Gri'ei Meroshe Galiot Bavel. It's simple that they're not worse, they're not any worse in status than the leaders of Bavel were seen as. Right? So here it's us in our country, in our nation, judges, presidents, they've all got that same strength, which is quite something. And hopefully they feel the same responsibility that comes from this acknowledgement of Rav Kook. Okay, so that's what he says. He says over here, the first thing he establishes is that we can see our modern day judges and presidents as having the same strength and jurisdiction as the biblical king that Hashem describes over there, which is on the one hand, an upliftment of the status that we would see our kings and our presidents and our judges. On the other hand, it's like a degradation of the king that we see in the Torah. So we shouldn't think that this king has got this like tremendous divine halo, and the things that he's saying is because Hashem is speaking through him. No, the king is actually a human being, and there's a value in appointing a human being to run things in terms of the government. And therefore, if in our time we agree to appoint someone to do those things, then that person has got the same strength that comes from the Torah. Is that understood? So yeah, it's inspiring and sobering at the same time. So he says, but what is surprising in our parasha? I doubt we're going to be able to get this all before the end, but we'll try. He says, what's interesting, the Torah needs to, the king has to write 2 Sifrei Torah. So now Rav Stav is already saying, okay, there needs to be if we're talking about the king and leadership, there needs to be a ruach of the Sefer Torah that's very connected to them. When he sits on his throne, he writes his repetition of the Torah. He needs to be with him, and he needs to read it all of his life. So that he learns to fear Hashem, his God, to fulfill all the words of the Torah, and to keep these statutes. Sefer Torah Achad, why does he have 2 Sefer Torah? The first one is to go with him everywhere he goes. Right? It's just like having an app, having Sfario on your phone, and that's it's a one phone with one app. That's the only thing he has. The other one would stay like in his treasure chest. So he's got these 2 Sifrei Torah. Why does he need 2 Sifrei Torah? Is this like just practical advice? Is it just the one's like the pocket edition that he goes into the war, the areas of war with, and then the other one stays at home safely? Is that the reason? Marana Rav Zatzal, so Rav Kook says, I think the officer he says very differently. But that in a way that illuminates different things that are going on in our Israeli experience, and including the difficult things that we're experiencing at the moment. Okay, just like an appetizer, but we're never going to get to the end of this. Let's try Rav Zatzal. It's a little bit complicated here, and I haven't fully got to the bottom of understanding what he's saying over here. Let's try to come to his skip to the end and try to understand what he's saying over here. So he says that really, why does the king have 2 different Sifrei Torah? I think he's saying that there's like a state Torah and there's a religious Torah. There's like a Torah, and then there's like a state Torah. That there's like a political discussions and deliberations have their own Sefer Torah. לפי שיקול דעתו, תוך להבנה שלמדיניותנו יהיו מקרים גבוהים גם כאלה של חיי אדם. I haven't fully understood it yet, so I have to apologize. I need a bit more time to get it. But I think he's saying over here is that there's like different considerations that the king has to have when it comes to I'll be near like try to get to it a little bit later to understand it more deeply. I didn't get it in the first few rounds. I'll send like a voice note on the group. But he's sort of not sure. Let's try this within the 3 minutes that we have left. Okay, מלחמת מצווה להעמיד אותי אין ללמוד כלל, על כוחנו ענייני הכלל במלחמות יוצאים. Now, I'm just going to end off with a nice idea before we, well, I try not to destroy this. I don't know if anybody saw on Facebook, we had the amazing split of accompanying the Adani family to get this to get the Sefer Torah of the Me'il with his name on. So it was an amazing idea that Rav Andrew Shaw from Mizrahi UK came up with. He said, you know, how are we going to dance on Simchat Torah? So he said that, you know, came up with this idea that every community will have a Sefer Torah with the Me'il that's got the name of one of the Kedoshim that were murdered since October 7th. Really, really beautiful. So they've got this design on the front, 8 sfod, 8 record, taken from Kohelet, a time to mourn and a time to dance on the one hand. And then on the back, you've got all uniquely embroidered names. So at the beginning, they were like quite reticent around giving us Eli's name because they said, you know, we can't choose and each Kehillah will just get what they get. I called up Rav Perez and I was Rav Perez. This is the one favor I'm asking. I said, we need to do this. I remembered like a discussion with Orit one Erev Shabbat, the mother of Eli, that she's not very connected to religion. Her husband is more traditional and, you know, does go to shul every now and then, and he says Kaddish. But she's not. But she's not anti in any way. And I remember hearing early on there was an idea. I think one of her cousins in America had this idea to write the Sefer Torah in Eli's name, and I saw the way she got so excited about it. And it was like the first time I had seen, oh, she doesn't have an anti-religion. She's just neutral, and there's like a positive disposition that this could be another way to be mansiach, to eternalize Eli's legacy. So when I saw this idea, I was like, we are getting Eli's name on this. So originally I was going to do it with a community in South Africa, but when Talmand decided they were going to do it, they asked me, can we get Eli's name? And then I called in a favor with Rav Perez, and I was like, you need to, you know, I need you to use your muscle over here to get us the specific name. And Baruch Hashem, you know, recently they came back and said, okay, you got the name. I got hold of the Adanis, and we had this tekes, and yeah, the hardest thing with these things is that you say it's amazing, but it's not, you know. And that's what Rav Perez spoke about. If you saw the live stream, was like this idea of like it's okay, but it's not okay. You know, things are okay, but they're completely not okay. So it's an amazing thing that this all came together, and it was to see them being uplifted and inspired by it. But it would be much more amazing if none of this had ever happened. So the reason I wanted to raise it here is because it happened this week. It was with the Sefer Torah. And on Motzei Shabbat, I got a message from Orit. I didn't know this was happening all this week. I found out on Sunday. They were doing all these tkasim on Monday and on Tuesday and Wednesday night. But on Motzei Shabbat, Orit invited me to come join their scouts parent group and some of Eli's soldiers to go to the Pagola on Saturday night. And we learned this letter that Eli had written when he was 2 months before the end of his training as a Maglan soldier. Orit found this letter that he had written on Yom HaZikaron. So he had written it 2 months before the end of his training. On Yom HaZikaron, she saw this booklet of his that she thought just had like, you know, just silly notes in. And she paged further and found this letter that he had written. And it's absolutely remarkable. So the scouts, when they took this letter, I translated it to English on the Friday. And then on the Saturday, she messaged me and said, come, we're going to learn the letter in the night. And they broke us up into these groups, and each group got a quarter of the letter, and we spoke what are the values that come through it. And it was just remarkable to be sitting with these, like, you know, all the Israelis and doing a tochnet and a pula like I did when I was in Bnei Akiva when I was in, you know, between 10 to 20 years old. So it was like unbelievable. and there's a lot of depth in this letter, and for me this all came together this week in being like everybody is a letter in the Sefer Torah, right? So we call it an ot, but in English we use the same word, letter, for ot and michtav. So his letter that he wrote is the expression of his letter in the Sefer Torah, right? If you see like his unique values that he stands for, and that he phrases that are so amazing. So I want to build a program around that in Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. We'll do it with the shul, and hopefully you'll come across from Renana for it. And then we'll have his parents there to speak about him, and then do like a handover of the me'il to us in order to dance with it on Simchat Torah. So I think stepping into Shoftim and thinking like what was like the king could do all kinds of things, and how he's appointed, should he be appointed? They're all questions that are out there. But once he's appointed, and whatever motivation is, he needs to hold into that Sefer Torah to realize. And I think this could be what Rav Stav is alluding to, that there's two aspects of the Sefer Torah. There's him as a leader of the population, and there's him as a leader in his own personal sense. That's why you have to have two Sefer Torah. The one that maybe sits at his home, and the one that moves with him as he moves as an individual. So yeah, we on the one hand serve the Torat HaKlal, the Sefer Torah of the Klal, but it has to be an authentic expression of the Sefer Torah of the Prat. And we've lost too many otiyot, but we have to keep on learning more and more to try do what we can to impossibly compensate, but keep the Jewish people growing and somehow flourishing as well. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining. I'll keep you posted.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.